and this part of it is going to focus on what we do as Austin Founder Lions Club and how we do it and what is our organizational setup. So I'm going to turn the program over to Rudy for welcome and introductions.
Okay, thank you. And welcome to everyone. Glad to have you join us for part 2. We'll probably have others joining us, and also want to welcome those that may be watching us on the recording. You're certainly as welcome, and hope that this will be something you enjoy. This is part 2. We're going to start with something maybe we should have done last week, and that is to introduce ourselves. Can you imagine that? But this is going to be a quickie introduction. It'll be, I'll ask that you give your name, how you came to join the Lions Club, and who your sponsor is. And I'll get it started. It'll just be myself and then those new folks. So my name is Rudy Munguia. And how did I come to join the Lions Club? I joined at the invitation of the person that eventually became my sponsor, Willie Kosurik. It happened that I was principal at the Willie I. Kosurik Elementary School at the time, so it was an easy entry into the Lions Club. And as I mentioned, Willie Kosurik was my sponsor. All right, it's that simple. And who would like to go next?
Go.
Rachel, could I ask you to go next, please?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Rachel Reed. I'm the executive director of the Texas Ophthalmological Association, and I was invited to do a presentation. I was invited by Sam Ruiz, and one of our physician members and I did a presentation. And I'd always been aware of the Lions Club, but didn't know much about it. And I'd also realized I work with physicians all the time, but didn't know much at all about the patient side of things. So it's been great. So I jumped at the chance when he offered to sponsor me for membership, just to find out more about the community. And so Sam was my sponsor.
All right, thank you.
I think Susan wanted to go next.
Okay, Susan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Niefeler. I am the Children's Services Supervisor at the new Central Library downtown. And we're open for curbside and are looking forward to being open to the public, but we don't know when yet. My sponsor happens to be my father, John Niefeler. And I joined the Lions Club because I wanted a chance to hang out with my dad more, which is always awesome.
Thanks.
I'm a joiner and a hand raiser, and I really like your mission. So, hello.
All right, thank you.
And you have Steve as well.
Yeah, Steve, would you be next, please?
Sure thing. Thank you, Rudy, and thank you, everybody. Nim, thank you for setting this call up too, as well. My name is Steve Riley. My company, I have my own company. I'm the president of Riley Co-Advertising. So we do imprinted promotional products and apparel. So any kind of custom logoed things that people give away. And I came about to Lions because one of my mentors in my industry is a gentleman by the name of John Hoyle, and he's a past international director from New Bedford, Massachusetts. And I had lived in the Boston area for 10 years, and he'd always extolled all the virtues of being a Lion and how great it was. And I made a New Year's resolution in 2020 that I was going to be part of a good group of people who had service on their minds and compassion in their hearts. And Lions is always just a natural fit for that, just from what I'd heard through him. And Ann Ward has been my sponsor and has been a wonderful guiding light throughout this whole process. And I was fortunate enough to meet a lot of you folks right before the COVID shutdown. So I was really moved by how wonderful everybody is here. I'm excited to be part of it.
And Steve, as always, bought roses from us. So I remember him getting roses from our event. So that's how when I saw his name, I said, "Oh, Steve has finally joined us."
All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
Steve.
I'm excited. And a quick coda to Alan Ford, who I see on this call. Alan Ford and I met last year at We Are Blood. So, and he and I were both in the snack bar trying to just get our blood sugar back after, filling a bag. And and Alan, I'm always grateful to have known you and to see all the wonderful stuff you bring to the group too. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Maybe
You have-
Gloria, would you go next, please? We
You're
cannot
muted.
hear
You're
you.
muted, Gloria. Perfect. That's good.
Right. My name is Gloria Munguia. I'm Rudy's wife. I'm a retired Spanish teacher. I have known about the Lions Club for many, many years because of Rudy and have attended quite a few meetings and actually have been asked by several members to join, but I've always been busy with other things. I was a bowler and was in a bowling league, and we don't bowl anymore. And even when it comes back, I've just decided not to do that. And I also play mahjong, and we're not doing that. And I also used to take care of our 3-year-old, and I look forward to taking care of him probably in the new year and playing mahjong again. But I've committed to Lions, and so I will save Thursdays for that. My sponsor, of course, is Rudy. And I'm glad to be a part of the Lions Club because it's a service club. And I believe in service.
All right, thank you. And
You have
Let's see.
Sandy and David ready as well?
all right, y'all decide how you want to do this.
Okay. All right, I'm Sandy Mann. Sid Popinski, who we know from Empty Nesters and our synagogue and several things, invited us to a few of the online meetings. We've never been to an in-person meeting. And I knew that she and Chuck were doing a lot of the eye exams, but I really didn't know much about Lions Club. And I enjoyed several of the presentations that we had. And after maybe 3 or 4 visits, Anne called us and said, wouldn't you like to join? These are all the wonderful things that we do. And we said, okay, and filled out all the forms. Gloria, I also love mahjong. And someone introduced me to an online version that it's not that matching game. It's called Real Mahjong, and you can play against the computer or against other people, and I love it. And I'm still not, because I hadn't even gotten to use my 2020 card until a few weeks ago. I am also an avid crocheter. I was introduced to crocheting about 10 or 11 years ago and got hooked badly. I love to swim, and I've only been able to swim about 3 times this year. I love water aerobics, and that's been kaput this summer. What else? I'm a former Sunday school teacher of kindergarten for 30 plus years. We've been in Austin 39 years. Our 3 children were raised in this house, and they're scattered all over the place. They're Arlington, Texas, Boston, and Maryland. And we've got 9 grandchildren from all those.
Sid, we're going to have to move along. Who was your sponsor?
Oh, Sid Popinski was our sponsor. And here's
All right,
David.
thank you.
David Mann, Sid is also my sponsor. I run several groups, including Empty Nesters and Romeo's, which is retired old men eating out. So it's not doing very much at the moment because we're not eating out. I worked at Rice University, Los Alamos, New Mexico, research facility, Schlumberger, and poker and bridge and numerous other things. Anyway, and Sid Popinski is our sponsor.
Well, thank you so much. And I see Greg has joined us. Greg, welcome. You need to unmute or mute, and then tell us your name and how you came to join the Lions and your sponsor, please.
Yeah, sure. I was joining while you were explaining that. My internet's a little bit garbled, so pardon me not having the video on. But I am Greg Dew. I am an IT management consultant. I've lived in Texas all my life, except for a brief journey to Louisiana, but have been in Austin for 30 years. But have traveled most of that time. I've been aware of Lions from my childhood. My mom and dad were both Lions back in the 80s. As I moved away, kind of lost touch with that, but was reintroduced to the Lions Club when I began my involvement with Leader Dogs for the Blind. I'm a puppy raiser for Leader Dogs. It's a volunteer position with them. But I have an aunt and uncle that have been doing it a long time and are also, as a result of Leader Dogs, very active in the Lions Club. And there's a real strong relationship between Lions Clubs and Leader Dogs for the Blind. As I learned more about Lions, became even more interested in the full range of community service. I visited several clubs in the Austin area, and in the process learned that a very good friend of mine, Bob Tonhoff, was a member of the Austin Founder Lions Club, and he is my sponsor.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing that. I believe we have everyone that's joined us at the moment. And so, Alan, if it's okay, we're going to turn it back to you.
I think we have somebody else, but I'm not sure who it is. We have somebody that only has their phone number, or my phone number in this case. I'm going to try and unmute him or her. I'm not sure if it's Bill. If you're there and you're one of the new members, could you unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please? We have no idea who you are. And if not, we'll just go ahead. Okay, let's go ahead.
All right, thank you. Alan?
It may well be Bill Hanks because he does not have a camera on his computer. And I was just told that today, so.
At least not that he'll admit to, I don't know. Well, thank you, Rudy. You know, last session we talked about Lions Clubs International and all the wonderful things that we do around the world. And today we're going to talk about how our club fits into all that and why we think the local club is just particularly important. Let me see if I can get this thing to advance. Yeah, here we go. So, you know, why does the individual club make so much difference? Well, of course, we provide support local services through funding and resources, and we support the Lions services and charities that we talked about last week, including the ones that are closely linked like Leader Dog. But perhaps the most important thing that we do is build social capital. And I don't know if you're all familiar with that term, but I first heard it about 20 years ago in connection with research done by Professor Putnam at Harvard, who did a lot of studying of civic engagement in America. And it's interesting that I heard mention of a bowling league because his book that attracted a lot of attention was called Bowling Alone. And what he had noticed was that actually more people were bowling, but fewer people were bowling in leagues. People weren't forming these organizations as much. Another phenomenon that emerged around the same time is it became more apparent that it was fairly easy to get volunteers to come out for an event, like to hand out water at a 5K run or a marathon or something of that nature. But it was getting a little bit harder to get people to engage continuously in regular meetings with organizations that address general civic concerns. For example, people were joining organizations like the Sierra Club or the NRA that had a common specific interest, but what he was looking for was organizations that would create social capital, create what he called bridging connections between people with sort of diverse backgrounds and interests. And the one definition that came out of that was that social capital is stocks of social trust, norms, and networks that people can draw upon to solve common problems. And he wrote, networks of civic engagement are an essential form of social capital. And the denser they are, the more likely people will be able to cooperate for mutual benefit. It's things like this that bring us together even in the course of a heated political campaign or an election year to solve local problems that are really important. And The Kennedy School of Government at Harvard in December of 2000 released a report called Better Together. Where have we heard that before? Said we support efforts to revive local and national organizations once prevalent that unite people across class and identity to the best of our ability, of course, and coalitions of democratic deliberation and civic activity, and specifically mentioned federated voluntary organizations such as the PTAs and the Lions Clubs. And I think we all recognize that the PTAs have also been kind of hurting the last couple of decades. So with that as our background, let's talk about where our club fits in. As we discussed some last week, our club was chartered in January of 1916 and was one of the clubs that was chartered as a Lions Club before Lions Clubs International was actually organized. Now, there were other clubs that were chartered a bit earlier, but at one time or another, apparently during wartime or during the Depression, they became inactive for a period of time, and that's why we claim to be the oldest continuously operating Lions Club anywhere. We had 29 charter members, and if you look back at those days, you would find that those were sort of a who's who of civic leaders in Austin. Over the years, we've been involved in various civic improvement projects. Early on, the club had a lot of interest in local issues, and we'll talk more about that as we get on, and we'll get into the specifics of some of these things. Another thing that our club has done is to sow the seeds of Lionism all over Central Texas. And I believe the oldest club, the first one that was created by our club, is in Smithville. And they're about 10 years behind us. If I remember correctly, they were chartered in 1926. A couple of us went down there to help them celebrate their 90th anniversary the same year that we were celebrating our centennial. By the way, I ought to do a check here. Is everybody hearing me okay? Okay, good. All right. Anyway, of course, the club was formed during World War I. And with the U.S. entry into the war, that got to be a primary focus for a lot of attention. And one of the things that they did very intensively was to support bond drives. Some of the other early activities were recycling to support the war effort. At one point, they put a big pole up at 11th and Congress in front of the Capitol for people to throw their recyclable tires onto. And actually, I've seen a picture that came out in the American Statesman way back when of this pole just completely surrounded by an enormous pile of tires occupied down there. Would be a funny thing to see these days. There was a lot of emphasis then over the next few years too on public recreation opportunities. They lobbied on civic matters, and that was before there was a Chamber of Commerce, and so the Lions Club was a sort of a booster organization for the city. There's actually a Lions newsletter from International that came out in August of 1918 that included a couple of clippings that talked about things the Lions Club was doing. They were welcoming soldiers as guests at an event at Barton Springs. They had a solution to the water problem. They wanted to build a new low dam on the Colorado River. These were the kinds of issues that they got involved in back in those days. Now, there were some lasting accomplishments. This one didn't last a real long time, but it was pretty substantial. In 1924, the club got together with the Chamber of Commerce to raise money to build the first substantial bathhouse at Barton Springs. And that one actually stood there approximately where the current one is until it was destroyed by floods in the late 1930s. Of course, in the 30s was when they had some really bad floods in Austin before they were controlling dams in a lot of places, and flooding at Barton Springs has always been an issue. In 1923, they actually started working on a public golf course. There were several people in the club, I should disclose, that were also involved with the Austin Country Club, and they were building their own golf course. And I think they recognized from that there was really a need for a public golf course so that people who couldn't belong to the country club would have an option. So they formed a nonprofit corporation, the Austin Municipal Golf and Amusement Association. They issued bonds to raise money for building the golf course. They built 9 holes, ran that for a while. They eventually built another 9. They built the clubhouse that's there today. And in 1936, they turned it over to the city of Austin in exchange for, I think it was about $70,000. No, I'm sorry, it was the commitment of the city to spend about $70,000 on an irrigation system and to run the golf course as a public golf course going forward. Now, if you look back at 1923, 24, I believe the lease was for 50 years from that point. And when the lease expired, that's when all the furor with the Board of Regents of the university and the public interest in keeping the course bubbled up. And of course, it's still an issue today. Another really important thing they got involved in was in the 1925, 1926 period. They actually started the recreation department for the city of Austin. They lobbied to create a recreation department. They essentially wrote up the way it should be organized for the city. They recruited the first director, a fellow named Garrison, for whom a park in South Austin is named now. And they helped to fund the hiring of the first playground supervisors in Austin. 1928 was a particularly good year with a straight character in front of 1928. They adopted a young lady who was graduating from the Texas School for the Blind. She was totally blind, had been since she was an infant, I believe. And they actually committed to fund her entire education at the University of Texas. Tina Lou Wallace. She majored in English and French and graduated as a Phi Beta Kappa. And this was back in the days when there weren't nearly as many resources available for the blind. She had a really distinguished 52-year career with the American Printing House for the Blind in Louisville, Kentucky, which at the time was mostly devoted to producing Braille publications. And they have a tribute wall there in the publishing house where they have her name on there. And that was an investment that paid off in an unexpected dividend. And actually I had a personal opportunity to be involved in this because my aunt had run the recording for the blind section at the Texas State Library, and over the years had become good friends with Tina Lou. And Tina Lou in 1992 told my aunt she wanted to do something for the Lions who had done so much for her. And she got in touch through my aunt with us. She gave us $40,000 to endow scholarships for blind students and came to Austin for the presentation. And that was really quite an experience. Also in 1928, there was another student at the Texas School for the Blind who had displayed a remarkable talent with music. He was a whistler. He was a remarkable whistler. And the club gave him a Victrola, one of those old crank-up phonographs, and a set of classical records to help his musical education. And he earned renown really as a professional musician and had a long career as a whistler. And he provided whistling for movie scores. He whistled with orchestras. And really, like I said, it was really amazing. So recordings, all that sort of stuff. 1938 was another big project that you can go and see the results of today. That is the old Dish Field baseball field, where now the Palmer Events Center and the Long Center for the Performing Arts stand. They planted 78 pecan trees along Barton Springs Road, running really on out toward Lamar and out toward Barton Springs. And those trees are still there, most of them, and looking pretty good as you would expect after all these many years. In 1945 and 46, they erected this scoreboard at House Park, the Austin High football field. At the time, that was the only game in town. And they dedicated it to Austin students who served in World War II. There's still an inscription there underneath the modern scoreboard that has been put up in front of that. But we know the inscription is down there. You have to look up under the digital scoreboard to see it. And we have a plaque that if we ever get around to having real football games there again, and I guess they will pretty soon, with a crowd, we want to have a dedication ceremony and rededicate the scoreboard to all the Austinites who have served overseas in wartime. Since then, since in 1966, in the club's 50-year anniversary, they made a gift of some fountains in Town Lake, which later were traded in for some improvements to the playscape at Zilker Park because the fountains kept getting clogged up with algae. Since then, the club has funded improvements at Republic Square Park downtown and additions and improvements to the playscape out at Zilker Park. And in celebration of our centennial, well, we'll get to that in a second, but here's an example of some of the improvements at the park. And we have a nice plaque out there recognizing the Lions Club involvement. And part of that included the bridge over the Zilker Flower Railroad track and this particular part of the playscape right here. Then in 2016, for our Centennial Project, we provided a Lion drinking fountain out there. And I think with that, we are ready to talk about the club's organization. And I believe that Rudy is going to speak to us about that. Right, Rudy?
Yes, yes. Let me have a moment to talk a little bit
Sure.
about our club. And here you see the chart or diagram outlining how our board of directors is set up. The president at the top, and then the next line would be the first, second, and third vice presidents. On the opposite side of the middle line is Ann Ward, serving as our immediate past president. Then you see the other circles there, the ovals, the membership chair, marketing chair, all important. You're familiar with Mim Ruby, our membership chair, and she's just doing a wonderful job in contacting you. So saves the president from having to do that. So thank you very much, Mim. Then we have our lion tamer. Our and I'll explain this in the next slide here. The secretary, treasurer, and tail twister, those will be explained in just a moment. Then we have a board of directors, or our directors are part of our board. And then we have our committee chairs. So if we can go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Yeah, the president, of course, presides over the board meetings and appoints committees. We have our vice presidents that serve in different capacities to assist the president. The secretary maintains records and minutes and reports to our, and this is an important part because we do want to stay in close contact and report to our district and international club. And so our secretary helps us do that. Our treasurer keeps us straight with our expenses and our fund keeping. Then we have our line tamer, and the line tamer is responsible for kind of the logistics part of it, the club property, flags, banners, name badges, and also organizes a little group to greet members when we are able to meet in person. And so we're ready for our next slide, please. Then tail twister is really has a double duty to promote good humor and keep fellowship and enthusiasm at a high level, and also has the authority to impose fines on members. And the fines, of course, are just $1 at most. That can be, and the tail twister has the authority to pick and choose whatever is whatever he chooses to do to give you a fine. And so everybody's trying to be on good behavior, but sometimes even good behavior causes you to get a fine. Anyway, membership chair is our next one, and membership, as I mentioned, Mim is doing recruiting and helping with our retention. Marketing chair is public relations and promotions, and Mark Hastings is our membership chair. Then we have our directors that help with serving as committee members, committee chairs, and then institutional memory through staggered 2-year terms. So half of our directors are elected or serve on a 2-year term, and the others on a 1-year term, so that it continues to stagger and keeps our consistency flowing from year to year, and that's what institutional memory is about. Then our immediate past president is also part of institutional memory, and serves as a representative from our club to the International Foundation. Okay, I know that's fast, but just wanted to give you a little taste of what all that is. Then we get into the election of officers. How did I get elected to be president? How did the other officers get elected? So the election of officers takes place annually. And in January, the club president appoints a nominating committee, which I will do in January. Then in February, the committee solicits nominations from members to serve in the incoming board, and the nomination committee presents a slate in March to the club, and the following month in April, the vote is taken. And so that's kind of a quick timeline of how the elections take place. The new board takes office on July 1st, and that's how this present board and myself came about. We took office on July 1st. Then the dues and administrative budget. As we all know, we pay $50 per quarter. That doesn't matter if you're the president or the vice president, or if you're the newest member to join. We're all together in that, and so our $50 per quarter or $200 per year. Of that $50, district and some of those dues go to support the district and multi-district, which is the state districts, and the dues are $14 per year. And then the Texas Lions Camp dues are $21 per year. And the international dues, as you can see, are $43 per year. And so the $50 per quarter would make it $200 per year. And so the amounts that are shown there, $14 per year, $21 and $43 per year, are part of that $200 per year per member. Then moving on, the administrative budget. The administrative budget is the dues, the meals, and the revenues, meal revenues, and it funds the expenses from our meetings, from our Zoom, as we are all enjoying Zoom, and that does come at a small cost. So that comes out of our admin budget, and that's an important budget. So we have one other part of our budget, and that is our activity fund. And if we can go to that next slide. And here's our activity budget. And these are contributions from members and the public, and the proceeds of fundraising activities. And it, as is indicated there, it's recognized as an IRS 501(c)(3), so that any contributions may be deductible on your taxes, as long as they are just a contribution and a donation. Okay, again, that was a quick run through our budget, and here is what Lions recognizes as 100% club status. That is that our club does contributions to each of the areas that are recognized by LCI. And so there is the Texas Lions Camp per member, it's $10, and you can see the list there. The Lions Eyeglass Recycling Center, International Foundation, the Lions Foundation. Greg, you'll want to know, or may already know, that the Leader Dog gets part of our dues, and it's a small amount, but that is included. The World Services for the Blind, District 2S3 charities, and then youth opportunities, so that the total will to complete our list for to be considered a 100% club, that would be $21 of our dues. And so I'm pleased and proud to say that our club has been a member of the 100% club for many years, and we're looking forward to continuing in that same status. Okay, that may be it, Alan. I may oh, and we have this one. Okay. Happy Lions, they're just kind of basking in the sun. During our in-person meetings, some of you may know that we still meet on Thursdays, but our hours are from 11:45 or thereabouts to 1 o'clock. And we meet at the Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Occasionally there may be other locations where we meet, such as we do a tour of a special designated area here in Austin, or we may meet at the park for a picnic. Of course, now during the COVID-19 times, we are doing our 12:30 to 1:30 meetings via Zoom. And thank goodness that there is at least that much opportunity to continue to reach out and stay in touch, even though it may be on a screen. So Alan, thank you much. And let me see if you're gonna, should I turn it back to you or to me?
I think I've got it now. I want to step in and talk about meetings a little bit more, because they're an important way of building social capital. You know, I wish we had more time to get acquainted with each other on Zoom, but there's really nothing quite like sharing a meal with somebody to have an opportunity to talk and really get acquainted. And, you know, there are really three ways of building social capital as a club, or three main ways. And you work together in fundraising, you work together in service projects, and you get together and you meet and you eat and you learn stuff and you share experiences and ideas and things like that. And over the years, our programs have been a really important part of our meetings. We've had some that were pretty exciting. I wasn't around in 1971 when the marksmanship instructor from DPS came to one of the hotels downtown and brought a bullet trap and actually did a shooting demonstration in the hotel. But I was around in 1985. Lon Moten Crockett had been a big supporter of the Blood Center for many years. And Moten, I think eventually, before he had to quit giving, donated about 40 gallons of whole blood. I think this was the donation that put him up to 30 gallons or 35. But in 1985, if you remember, that was around the height of the AIDS epidemic, and people had a lot of reservations about donating blood, about the safety of the process and everything. And Moten had this pint to give that was going to put him right at that next level of donations. So the program was about the Blood Center. We had a representative come from the Blood Center. A couple of people came in, and one of them was a phlebotomist who stuck a needle in Moten. He was lying on a gurney in front of the club, and they drew a pint of blood from him while they talked about the safety of the procedure. So that's just an example of one of the things that you can do that's really, really educational and informative, and helps to stimulate you to go out and do good things for the public. Now, some people question whether watching somebody bleed was a good after lunch program, but a few weeks later, we had a maxillofacial surgeon who brought a slideshow of pictures of his work, mostly restoring the faces of people who had been smashed in motorcycle accidents. And a few people actually got up and left lunch at that point, and nobody gave another thought to the blood donation program. Since then, we've had, we've had a lot of really interesting programs. One that comes to mind that was a lot of fun was a couple of police officers brought one of their canines in. This particular one was trained to disarm people, and one of the officers put on the big padded suit, and we got to watch the dog dash across the stage and knock the weapon out of his hand. So that was pretty cool. So anyway.
Yeah, Alan, if I may,
yeah.
One other program that kind of was unusual, we had Tito's Vodka representative come, and what made it special is he handed out samples to everybody those airplane sample little bottles to our members, and that picked up our participation there for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So anyway, thought I'd add that to you.
Well, I'm glad you did, because yes, you never know when you're going to get a sample, some kind of a giveaway. And we've had authors come, well-known authors come and make signed books available to us and that sort of thing. But anyway, like I said, Zoom has its limitations though, so we're really looking forward to being able to get together and meet in person again and enjoy lunch like this. See, just watching that video would be more fun if we were all together. But anyway, as I said, the meeting serves a lot of functions, and we enjoy fellowship. There's some opportunity for networking for people who are working together on things, for planning as a club, and for learning. So now I think we have Mim to talk to us about just how we actually serve. And we want to talk about how, you'll notice there's an overlap sometimes between fundraising and service, because you can do fundraising in the course of performing an important community service. Mim, you there?
Well, yes, I am. Well,
Good.
service is our mainstay, and we can't really do service without fundraising. So these are some of the, I'll be going over these activities a little bit more in depth, but just to generally let you know, these are the places where we do serve. And this is in concert with the Lions Clubs International, so that we are in sync with them. And we certainly do many of these services. Primarily, many of our projects are around this Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. We do scholarships for their student body, as well as other kinds of things, such as eyeglass recycling. They're very involved with the Leo Club, and all the eyeglasses that we pick up from the community, we bring to the School for the Blind so the Leos can package them and send them to Midland. Then vision screening is a very big part of our service project. I'll be describing that a little bit later. The next biggest thing is our Texas Lions Camp involvement. Then some of the other little special things that we may not be actively doing this moment, our Meals on Wheels and Ronald McDonald House has probably been a bit inactive. The Christmas toy campaigns, where we get toys for children and food for the community, are things that are seasonal. The Sportsman Award we did not do this year, and we due to the COVID. But we did reinstate this year the Lions Peace Poster Contest. So next slide, please. Our primary fundraising activity, which has been called off for last year and maybe even for this next year, is our sporting clays. I'll describe and show you some pictures of that again. Coming up very quickly is Rose Day. We each members go out and solicit to the community orders for roses. We go to a warehouse and package them, and then we deliver them. Casino Night is one of our newest projects, and it occurred in February, and the theme was 2020. And we all dressed in gangster style attire and did a 1920s sort of theme. Now, bingo is something we're very tokenly involved in, whereby we are the sponsor charitable organization for that activity. We get some funding from that. And so next slide, please. Next slide. Well, it doesn't want to move, does it? Oh, there it is. All right, the service projects. This is one of the things that is at the Texas School for the Blind, but this is the youth program. Those students under 17 or in high school still can form Leo organizations, and they're sponsored by Lions Clubs. Our Leo Club is the Texas School for the Blind. This is a pretty large program throughout the country and throughout our community here in Austin. Next slide. Here's the target age groups from 12 to 18, or even there's an advanced group or an older group called the Omegas. These are all having to be sponsored. One of the things they're very actively involved in is a White Cane Day, which is it's not a demonstration, but it's a parade showing how mobility for the visually impaired are, and we parade around the Capitol building, trying to make sure the legislators know that the blind are just as much part of the community as anyone else is. Next slide.
Ma'am, this is Ann. Ann, ma'am, back on the White Cane Day, for many years it was held downtown and marched around the Capitol, but in more recent times, White Cane Day has moved on to the campus at School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And the residents there, the students do get out and sort of march around the neighborhood. And our club assists with that primarily by being at major intersections. If you remember where we meet, you know, we're on 45th between Burnett and Lamar. And so we are there to help those students cross the street. We just don't have a picture of it at the School for the Blind.
Oh, I apologize. I certainly didn't know that.
And we might add that it goes well beyond the students at the School for the Blind, though, because there are hundreds of other blind people from around Texas who come and participate in that.
Okay, thank you. Here we are at eyeglass recycling. We have boxes that we distribute around the community, Austin and the area, primarily in optometrists, ophthalmologists' offices, places where people might want to contribute their old eyeglasses as they get new ones. And then we're each assigned a location or a location we volunteer for, and we pick up those glasses. We bring them collectively to the Texas School for the Blind, and the LEOs go through them and package them and send them to Medlin. Medlin has a technical area where they do any repairs and sort through those eyeglasses, and then they're distributed to missions in undeveloped countries. We certainly are in need of somebody to chair this project. And so any of you who might be interested, it's a matter of coordinating and assigning people to do the pickup and seeing they get to the School for the Blind. So then,
Ma'am, if I may add to that. Yes, just this morning I received an email from an optometrist on Far West. I believe they're called LASIK Plus, that has gathered all the recycled glasses and are ready for pickup. So so I would also underline what you're asking, if we have anyone interested in being a part of that, or even coordinating and serving as chair, we certainly would welcome that. And for now, let me just ask if anyone lives near Far Right. Is that right? Far West. Far West. I see one hand going up.
Oh, Sandy and David look like they are volunteering.
Oh, yeah.
Well, could we ask Sandy and David maybe to help? Anne has a couple of things on her plate already. Not that Sandy and David don't, but anyway, let me get back with Sandy and David after our orientation, and I'll share that information. Thank you so much for raising your hand. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, one other thing that we do for the students at the Texas School for the Blind are we every year give a couple of scholarships. And these are scholarships to students who are going to often college classes or even advanced education. The way we do it is we wait until the student is enrolled, and then we get an invoice for that. And Patty Robinson, who's an employee at that school, coordinates that, and there's an opportunity, coordinates that through the Texas School for the Blind. And there's a committee that receives applications and then decides on which students are meet the criteria, and then our club finances that. And Ann will talk to you about the Texas Lions Camp counselors, who we also give scholarships, but that's for another section of this. So next slide, please. Now, this is our big one. Now, Lions Kids Sight USA is a national program. Texas got involved in it in 2008, and I was involved in this at the very early stages. What we do is we go to various areas, particularly public schools, private schools, and community events. And we use this camera, which looks like a Polaroid camera, and you'll see a picture of it in a minute. And it identifies 9 different eye conditions of children. Now, the children don't have to read a chart. They don't have to know how to read or anything of the like. So we can screen a child at 6 months and we go up to 60 years if we needed to, but most adults know whether they need glasses or not before that time. And this equipment scans the eye with a beam and reflects back into the camera and gives us a report. And what we use is a code term if the child does not pass the screening. And let me just emphasize, this is a screening process. And if the child does not pass the screening process, then we give a report to the teacher and goes to the school nurse or to the parent. And then we make arrangements, if they need so, to go for a complete eye exam. And then we also have the opportunity through wonderful members who go out and solicit to get glasses or eye correction for that person. And this is what our camera looks like. Looks much like, in my opinion, a Polaroid camera. And it's very simple and easy to use. There's not any buttons to push when the exam is done. We only have to push buttons to turn it on and to plug it into a printer. But our keyword that we use when the child does not pass the eye screening is bingo. And when we do identify a bingo, then we redo the test to double check to make sure we've gotten a recommends eye exam. So this fits into a case, and we carry it from place to place. Now, unfortunately, this is our Simba, which is a self-contained vehicle or a trailer that one of our members has made adjustments. We're gonna sell this because it is very difficult to transport and we don't use it very much. This is what we usually use for health fairs and community events. And the big one that we do every year is Coats for Kids. Now, those are all in limbo because we don't know if they're going to be doing Coats for Kids. The other restrictions we have with this program is most of us are over 65 and in the vulnerable population for COVID. The other thing that is a little bit of a barrier is we cannot, in order to do the screening, we cannot be as far as 6 feet away from the patient or the client. So those are 2 things. The other problem with outdoor activity without some sort of barrier to the elements is the very, very cold weather, because Coats for Kids occurs in December. So we will have to work through. We still have some events planned, and we do have something that looks like a phone booth that helps defer the light. Light is our major problem when we do the screening because the pupil has to be pretty large in order for us to get a good reading. So we're working on those things, and you'll know more about that. Tommy Cowan is our lead person, the lead chairman on this. And next slide, please. Excuse me. Well, I was going to say we have a division of our schools into north side and a south side. And these are north of the river and south of the river. Whereby we assign the schools, and we have groups of people that are volunteers for that. So you'll be hearing more about that. And if you look at your chart that I sent to you, the spreadsheet with all the people that are responsible for these things. Now I'm going to defer to and turn it over to Ann Ward, who's who is the Texas Lion Camp poster person, and will tell you all you ever needed to know about Lions Camp.
Thank you, ma'am. Since we had a program just last week on Texas Lions Camp, and I think just about everybody participated, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the history. This is an overview photo of our campus. It's located in Kerrville. The Lions Camp, if you want to go to the next slide, Lions Camp was created in 1949 in response to the polio epidemic. Over time, the camp has evolved to serve children with special medical conditions. We still have, each summer we have 9 sessions. This was the first year since we've been having camp. Camp actually started in 1953. That's the first year we had children on the campus. This was the first year we did not have children on the campus. We had a virtual camp this summer. But typically we have about 1,500 children in Kerrville. It's a week-long camp. The children stay overnight. Many times it's the first time the kids have ever been away from their parent and ever spent the night away from home other than being in the hospital. So it's really a big deal for these kids the first year they go. It's also a really big deal for the parents to let them go and stay away from home for a week. But it's a wonderful experience. They do lots of fun activities and it builds self-esteem. We provide this camping experience at no charge to the parents, but that doesn't mean it's free. It costs about $1,800 per camper per week. And we budget, as I said, for 1,500 campers. You see there on your screen the age groups for physical disabilities, which we have 5 sessions. We have 1 session dedicated for children with Down syndrome. And then the last 2 sessions of our camp are for children with type 1 diabetes. And you see they're a little bit older. There's a lot of education that goes on there. I know one of the campers I sponsored early on when I became the camp director, the girl was diabetic and her mother told me, she said, when she got home, she said, it's like, is this the same child I sent to camp? Because she was so much more responsible about her monitoring her blood sugar and eating correctly. And, you know, it really made an impression on her. Okay, go ahead. So how does our club support Texas Lions Camp and how can you? Well, the most important thing that we do is we recruit campers. And camper enrollment for next summer begins January the 2nd or 3rd. So we want to be on the lookout for children that might qualify to go to Texas Lions Camp. We simply direct them, the parent, to the Texas Lions Camp website. As you saw, we do pay dues to the camp. And then we also contribute $10 per member, and that's our 100% club contribution. But there are many ways you as an individual can get involved, and I think we talked about some of these last time. I want to encourage all of you to consider becoming a Century Club member. It only costs $100 a year. You can set it up as a bank draft or a credit card charge. It's like $10 a week. And, you know, you can skip Starbucks a couple times and there's your money. We also have endowments that we are seeking. And as we talked about last time, we are kicking off a capital campaign to try to raise money to replace a quad of bunkhouses. Back in some of the bunkhouses that we have were created in 1953, and I think our club probably has painted one of those. And there is just so much paint you can put on a building. And in fact, I believe that was one of the bunkhouses that got destroyed this summer with the storms, or this spring. Anyway, we're raising money to try to rebuild 4 bunkhouses, and they'll be brand new, have much nicer accommodations, and be really incorporate the latest equipment and the design in serving children that have special medical needs. Each summer, we have an opportunity as a club to provide a service, and there's a lottery that happens in October because there are so many clubs that want to participate. And so we'll be entered in the lottery. For the last several times, we have been the greeters when camp opens on Sunday afternoon, and we have served refreshments, and it's been a whole lot of fun. This summer, we were supposed to be the awards night host. Of course, that didn't happen. And then this is a really fun thing that I want to encourage all of you to look forward to. In next spring, we'll have 3 work days, and our club, I think you can go to the next slide. I think our club usually goes in April, and we have done, you see here, painting. I've still got the clothes that got paint all over them, so if we ever paint again, I'm ready. But we've done painting, we've done cleaning, we've done gardening. Go to the next slide. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too. And the picture there in the lower right-hand corner shows the Leos. We took a group of our Leos with us, not this past spring, but the spring before. And we were doing gardening. Anyway, it's a really fun time. It's a great opportunity to see the camp, but it's even better to see the camp during the summer when we have kids there. So there we are at the refreshment stand, and it was just a whole lot of fun. I believe that's JP's grandson, and he loved making the snow cones. So we can bring kids with us, and it's really, really fun. Okay, next slide. Ma'am mentioned that we normally give an annual sportsmanship award. This is a program that the club created, I've heard maybe 50 years ago. We give an award to 1 men's and 1 women's high school team sport in AISD, and the selection is made by officials based on the behavior of the players, coaches, and the students. And there's one of the winning teams. And then if you go to the next slide, these were the teams that won in 2018. We were not able to give an award in this was 2019. We weren't able to give one this spring because we did not have team sports during the spring. But that's always a good thing to do. You've also heard a little bit about the peace poster. This is something that Lions Clubs International has been doing for a long time, but last year was the first time our club has ever participated in this. And it is a way to engage student artists. It's for middle school students. And last year we decided that since this was our first time, we just wanted to get our feet wet. So we worked with the Gus Garcia Young Men's Leadership Academy. Of course, Gus was a member of our club for many, many years. And John Niefler, Susan's dad, was the chair of the event, and he did an awesome job. You see the winning poster there. And you see the school had an assembly, and we actually went out there, presented the awards, recognized all the young men who had entered. And as John said, we made a lot of people really happy that day. This year, John is again chairing it, and Gloria is on the committee, and we're glad to have her. We are adding another school this year. So we will also have a contest at the Bertha Sadler Means Young Women's Leadership Academy. So we will forward 2 winning posters to the district competition. Then the district goes on up, and eventually there is an international winner. And there's scholarship money attached when you get to the district and higher levels. Also, the ultimate winner, their artwork is used on the LCIF plaques for the next year. So it's a really, really prestigious competition. And, you know, a lot of athletes get recognition, but the art students don't get so much recognition. So this is a really good way for us to shine some light on these young people and the talents that they have. Okay. Some of our other activities, we do have Meals on Wheels routes, although I don't believe we're doing those right now. Leonore coordinates all of that. We have in the past done prepared meals at the Ronald McDonald House, but we are not doing that right now. And we do need someone that would coordinate that if we decide to continue that. We do special donation campaigns. We've had, I think Mem mentioned at Christmas, we do a toy drive and we do a food drive. We've also done diaper drives. We've collected old shoes and actually used that to raise a little money. We've contributed socks to the homeless. And during the pandemic, our board wanted to do something. We wanted to help people. And so what we decided to do was to buy HEB gift cards, and we asked our club members to nominate someone they knew. We didn't want to just give our money and be part of this big nameless, you know, we wanted some kind of direct connection with who we were giving our resources to. So club members nominated people that they felt like could benefit. And I have to tell you, a lot of them were housekeepers or handymen that worked with some of our members. And so then that member delivered the gift card to the recipient. And here you see JP delivering a gift card to a gentleman from his church who really needed it. And then on the right, we have Laura Tyreen. She handed off a gift card to a woman who was unable to work because she has cancer. So we felt like we made a difference for those people. Okay. And then I'm going to talk about our fundraising activities. And here I believe you see Jake Pickle on the left and Willie Kasurik, 2 of our more well-known former members. And I bet they were pretty good fundraisers. One of our big fundraisers, in fact, our biggest fundraiser, is our Sporting Clay Shootout. And I've been involved with this since I joined the club in my first one was in 2014. We do this in partnership with the NFL Alumni Association, the Austin chapter. And I have to say, having those big football players with their Super Bowl rings out there really brings out the crowd. We were not able to do it this year due to the COVID, and we're hopeful that we'll be back in 2021. Our partner the last time we had it was the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, which you see here, Mike Brin on the right, receiving our check. We were able to provide them with $10,873. And of course, we had switched to them because diabetes has become one of LCI's areas of focus, and the JDRF helps us recruit campers for Texas Lions Camp. They help us find type 1 diabetic children. And I have to say, they have been an excellent partner. They have provided tons of volunteers to help at the event, and they provided tons of door prizes and saved us money and helped us make it a very profitable event, as you can see by the proceeds there. Okay. Mem talked a little bit about our Rose Day coming up. We're delivering on the 29th of October. Here you see a picture of us packing the roses. It's a lot of fun. This year we'll have on our masks when we're doing this. Okay. Next slide. And there's another one. And you see there all those boxes of roses, we put those together and that's what gets delivered. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. We do encourage you to reach out to your friends and acquaintances and encourage them to buy roses. And I believe Mem sent you the flyer. And I usually just send an email to everybody I know and send them the flyer, and they can buy roses online, or they can fill out the form that you can email them and mail it to us. Okay. And here is our very first casino night. We had this thankfully on February the 7th before COVID became a thing. And we were raising money for our vision screening activities, and we were so clever, you know, it was 2020. And so we did a Roaring 20s theme and raised money for vision. And we are very appreciative of Rachel getting the Texas Ophthalmological Foundation to be our main sponsor for the event. And I'm proud to say that because of an outstanding committee led by Brittany Hendrickson, we exceeded our goal of net proceeds. And we worked with the South Austin Lions Club, which you see up in the upper left picture, the one with around the car. Many of those folks, all except for the two in the front, are members of South Austin, and they partnered with us. And we had a lot of fun, raised some money. All of the money goes to vision screening and follow-up care. So when we're able to resume those activities, we have financial resources to do that. As Mem mentioned, we do participate. We are one of the charitable organizations for a bingo hall, and we don't get a lot of money, but we have seen a little money from that. It doesn't really require very much work though on our part. And if any of you as new members have ideas for fundraising, we will be very interested in hearing from you later. Okay. As you've heard several times, it's important that we report our volunteer hours to LCI. This helps LCI calculate how much the value of our volunteer service, and that's important when you're trying to get support for your nonprofit organizations. Linda Locke in our club is the one that reports our volunteer hours. So anything that you do, you know, attending this orientation, which probably Mem is going to report, but anything that you do for Lions as a service, you should send your information to Linda. And I'll just give you a quick example. I write articles about our club for the district newsletter and submit them. Well, I will send Linda an email and tell her how much time I spent doing that. But it's things that you do that are working on service or fundraising projects, when you go to committee meetings, or if you help set up a vision screening or whatever, and the time you spend arranging or preparing for meeting programs, like if you have to contact the speaker and you get all the information to put on the website, well, all of those hours count. So be sure you keep up with it and send Linda an email once a month. Okay, how we communicate. we have several ways we communicate with you as members. Email is probably our number one form of communication. You get notices about our meetings, and then you get follow-up reminders. We also have our president's newsletter. It comes out periodically. I believe I saw one from Rudy last night. Our website is a great source of information. That's what it looks like. And the first time you go, in order to get into the members only section, which has a lot of valuable resources for you, you have to log in. And if you're brand new, you don't have a login. So what you do is click that login button that you see there on the upper right-hand corner, and you put in your email and then just say, forgot password. That will allow you to create your own password, because once you become a member of the club, when Leonore enters you into the system, you are put into our database so you can set up an account. But all you do is try to log in and say you forgot your password, and then you can set it up. That gives you access to what you see here. The member directory, which you want to be sure that you put your picture and fill out your profile, gives you access to our organization documents like our club constitution. You can get information about orientation. There are just all kinds of resources. So be sure that you visit our website. Okay. And we also have a Facebook page, which you see here. And you can just go to Facebook and search for Austin Downtown Founder Lions Club and start like us and start following us. And then the program that we use to do our website is called Wild Apricot, and they do have an app that you can download on your phone, and it will give you access to our calendar and our member directory. And let me tell you, that can be very handy. If you are out somewhere and you're you need to call somebody in the club and you don't have their number for some reason, if you've got this app, you can just get in there and call up the member directory. You can also register for events, and you can edit your online profile. So you can download that app and have access to the website even when you're on the go. And that does it for me. So I'll turn it back to Mim.
Well, you've heard all of the things that we do and how we are, and you know our motto is we serve. So this is the opportunity. How can you serve? Every time you attend a club meeting or you work at club fundraising or service activities, and anything you do for the Lions Club is how we expect you to serve. We need your ideas, your leadership, your special skills, and your contacts. The dues will be submitted to you online in quarterly increments, and you can set that up with Leonore on a chart, or you can, if we're meeting in person, come and pay in cash, in check, any way you want to pay it. We take money any way you want to give it to us. So, but your expectations are that you'll pay your dues every quarter, and you can have it automatically done by credit card. Any direct contributions will be directed to the 501(c)(3) account. Next slide, please. Now, the committees. Again, I sent you on a week ago a list of all of the committees that we have and all of the service or fundraising things. Now, the way we have the vision screening, as I mentioned before, Tommy Cowan is our overall chair. He is the captain of this ship. Sam Maurice is responsible for the community events, and he will from time to time ask for volunteers for certain community events when we're able to do them again. Now, Rudy does all of the AISD schools that are in the north segment of Austin. We go to, Tommy Cowan sets us up to go to every single school in the Austin Independent School District, and even some private schools as well. So Rudy's the chairman of the North School segment. Needs about 3 or 4 volunteers for each event. Those are our Tuesday morning time frame. They occur on Tuesdays about 10 a.m. and go till about 1. As you would know, the pre-kindergartners, the 3 and 4-year-olds, have a morning event and an afternoon class. So we stay there for both of those events. And then Robert Watson does our South schools. And so those are all the schools that are South. And there's a very detailed schedule when we're able to do them. Then, whoopsie, got another message. Anyway, and then the other way you can serve is, as Ann has mentioned, about the Texas Lions Camp. The next opportunity we will have to go to Lions Camp, if we're able to go, will be the workday in April, or March, April, or May are the times that we would have a choice of going. And it depends on the lottery as to how we go. The other place you would have an opportunity to volunteer is in the greeter section during the camp session. So there are some opportunities, and you'll have an opportunity to volunteer. Here's the program committee is probably the mainstay of our club. Every week, Matt Ragsdale is able to have members, he researches and has members that suggest speakers for our club. And you cannot beat the education and the information that we get from those meetings, as you all have already had the opportunity to be at some of our meetings. But this is a huge project, and we always have people who would like to serve on that committee. Again, we talked about the eyeglass recycling, and I also can use some help with membership, although we always are recruiting members. So every one of our members is on the membership committee because we solicit members continuously. Mark Hastings is our Guru IS guy, along with Leonore, but he does the public relations and the marketing. You've heard about the Rose Sporting Clay. It's a fun event, so you can get involved in that. Rose Day is headed by Robert Watson, and time is right now if you want to get involved in that. Patty Robinson's responsible for the scholarships for the Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And Jim Robertson's is the gatekeeper for our funds, and he submits to the board every month a financial report. Next slide, please. Whatever your job is, we just help each other. We get involved, even if we're not members of the committee and we need help, just to get involved. And as you can see, nobody took care of this poor old possum laying in the street because it wasn't their job. We don't have that attitude at our club. Next slide. So, why did you join Lions Club? I sent you a form. You don't have to necessarily use this form, but we'd like to have your feedback, why you wanted to join, and all reasons are good, but we'd like to be sure to meet your needs. So if you would, send me back the responses that are asked for on that form. Next slide. And we want to welcome you to the Lions Club. You're a very important member of this club. We also would like to let you know that we have on our website a place where you can purchase any apparel that would identify you as a Lions member. There are several opportunities, and we suggest we don't subscribe to everybody having to wear the yellow vest, but we do expect and request that you wear a Lions logoed attire when we go to these events. So does anybody have any questions? We also sent you event or a orientation evaluation for you to return to us as well.
You have a question on the chat. that I possibly Rudy could address. How about sending out postcards or calls to encourage people to register and vote? Not telling who to vote for, just to vote.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, that's an excellent thought. Everyone, I think, is getting involved in one way or the other in the election. That is an issue that I'll present to the board, and our board will be meeting later this month in a couple of weeks. And so thank you for that thought, and we'll see how the board feels about that and get back with you. Also, I want to thank those others that added a chat comment. Like Susan's comment about the Whistler and doing the, what is it, the William Tell Overture. Maybe when we end this, we can all put that on and whistle along and try to stay on the saddle, stay in the saddle and see how that works. But thank you all for joining us today and last week. I do want to say that in 2 weeks, when the district governor, Gary, visits, we're going to refer back to these orientation meetings and have a kind of a door prize for those that have participated, and just try to kind of say another way of saying thank you for joining our club and for being part of our orientation. All right, Alan, give it back to you.
Before you do, sorry, Alan. Susan was asking to whom she can send the questionnaire and the service information. We'll send you that information by email. I'll ask Mim to send you that. But the questionnaire you'll be sending back to Mim Ruby, and the service organization you'll send to Linda Locke. But we'll send you all that information, if you don't mind, by email, so that you have their email addresses and their contact numbers. Okay? Go ahead, Alan.
Okay, I don't have much to add here. I think we pretty well covered the waterfront. I do want to say, with the Rose Day project coming up, think about ways that you might be able to take orders for roses from people that you know. There's some of the ones that have been the most successful customers for us have been people who managed offices. I realize that'll be a little more difficult this time with more people working at home, but people that had office staff, and they would order a few dozen roses and distribute maybe 1 or 2 or 3 to each of their employees, or market them to business people to send to their clients. Of course, that involves a lot more deliveries to other places, but I have a CPA friend who has bought increasingly more roses every year. And last year, he bought 50 dozen roses delivered to his favorite clients, and he's told me that he will probably be ordering about the same number this year. So that's the real secret to making this thing a success, is to tap in to these people that have a good reason to want to buy more than just a dozen delivered to their significant other. Otherwise, thank you very much, folks. Welcome to the club, and I'm sure that I will be happy to answer any questions you have in the future, and so will the other people who participated in today's orientation. It's nice to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Bill Hanks also for joining in. I don't know exactly how that worked, but I see that he was part of our group. So thank you, Bill, for joining in. Y'all have a good one. See you tomorrow at the 12:30 meeting.
You bet.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Bye. Bye-bye.